In this parallel universe, whatever it is, they have to participate in games in order to survive. Sounds familiar? Hey guys, Nina here, and welcome back to More Than Fiction. So, for anyone watching, I'm having a bad hair day, okay? So bear with me. But yeah, it's been a while since I've posted, I think a month to be precise. And the reason is that I got a new job. I'm working as a radio host, and I've really been focusing on that. So the podcast has been suffering a little bit, but don't worry, I haven't forgotten about you or about it. I'm still super into reading books and watching TV shows, so that passion is never going away. And yeah, today I'm back with a podcast about TV shows. Lately, I've been watching lots of TV shows, especially Asian ones, so I decided to bring in some Korean spice to the table. I've recently finished watching Squid Game, like literally, I think a week ago is the first time that I have watched Squid Game, okay? And I have not been spoiled about season 1 whatsoever, if you can believe it or not. I'm just good with spoilers. So it was a shock for me to find out that number 1 was the old guy, that he was the host. I kind of had my suspicions about him, but I also was very sympathetic towards him. He was an older dude, like super cute and old and sick, and I just felt for him. And I kind of didn't want to believe that he's one of the bad guys. But yeah, he fooled me. Anyways, I dived right into season 2, and it was good for me because I didn't have to wait 3 years for a new season. But, if I imagine that you had to wait years, I think probably the expectations were too high and you were disappointed, right? But thankfully, season 3 is coming this summer, I think, so we don't have to wait for too long. And until then, we can occupy ourselves with TV shows that are just as good, but not that well known. And I think that's a bummer. I hate it when there are TV shows that are really hyped, and I'm not saying that Squid Game is overhyped. I really like the TV show. But it's just a bummer that all of the others kind of get drowned because, a certain show is getting so much attention that there's no room for others to shine at the same time, which kind of sucks. And here I am to shine a light upon those shows, okay? Because they deserve more attention, and they're just as good, if not even better. So before we dive into it, I just want to say that this episode does not contain any spoilers about the following TV shows. I will kind of give you a brief summary of what's going on, just like a trailer would, just that I will explain it in my words, and I'm gonna try to convince you to watch them, okay? Hopefully, I will. Seriously, if I do, let me know. Text me wherever you're listening, watching, on Instagram, TikTok, wherever. I want to know if I convince you, if I'm that good. But yeah, now let's dive right in. I'm gonna be recommending 4 different TV shows. And firstly, I'm gonna start with a Japanese TV show that you can find on Netflix. It's a Netflix series, and it's called Alice in Borderland. And oh boy, this one delivers everything you loved about Squid Game and then some. We basically follow Arisu. Arisu, he's a young video gamer. He loves playing his games. He has 2 best friends. And him and these 2 friends, they find themselves in a parallel universe, in an abandoned Tokyo. And imagine, Tokyo is a huge city. Like, imagine that all of a sudden you're in the center of this huge city with so many people, and all of a sudden you're there by yourselves with just your 2 friends, and no one is around. Everything is abandoned. They've never seen Tokyo that empty. So it's a shock, okay? It's a shock. And anyway, in this parallel universe, whatever it is, they have to participate in games in order to survive. Sounds familiar? And these games, they're a bit different from Squid Game because mostly they have to cooperate, because they have to solve problems in order to come out of it alive, in order to survive. There are also games in which they have to compete against each other, but that's rare. It's more about cooperating actually, but it's still, the games are so complex, so unique, different. It's a pleasure to watch that, and you really have to use your brain in order to, and they have a lot of caveats, a lot of loops. It's interesting. Also, the visuals are stunning, the characters are layered. I did have a nitpick in the show in regards to the characters. I thought that some of the stories could be better developed. They just seemed a bit abrupt or cheesy. I can't really explain it. But honestly, so much happens. There's so much action. There's always something going on that I don't really mind. And I still got really attached to these characters. I still cried my eyes out whenever something intense happened. I still got invested. So bottom line, I love the show. I really did. It has 2 seasons, by the way, and you have closure. So the second season doesn't end on a cliffhanger. You get like a proper ending. We actually wouldn't need a season 3, but there's also season 3 coming this year. I just read an article about it, that season 3 is happening. And I'm super excited about that. I didn't know because, like I said, season 2 has an ending. So that's amazing. And yeah, I think I might prefer this show to Squid Game actually. It's just so entertaining. It's definitely binge-worthy and you should watch it like now. Okay, then let's move on to the second TV show that I want to recommend. And this one is a Korean TV show, surprise, surprise, and it's called The 8th Show. If you haven't heard of this one, it's hidden gem that kind of combines survival with deep psychological twists. It follows 8 contestants, 8 individuals, and they find themselves in an abandoned building. And this building has 8 floors. So each contestant lives in his own floor. The thing is that the higher you live, the more money you earn. And money is earned based on the time you spend here. And you lack certain basic necessities, meals are limited, it's difficult, and they're kind of confused about what's even going on, or they're like in a reality TV show, cameras are everywhere, who's watching, what's going on. It's really intense because, like I said, they don't earn the same amount of money, so there's a bit of, unfairness about that, and they're all very desperate. Just like in Squid Game, all of these people, they come from some seriously bad, difficult backgrounds, poverty. Life hasn't been easy on them. They all have their own struggles, and their stories are also really well developed. Just like in Squid Game, you get to know their backstory, you get to know where they're from, what their deal is, everything. And you get attached, at least I did. And what makes the show stand out is that it explores human behavior under seriously extreme stress. Alliances, betrayals, moral dilemmas. It's like Squid Game, but with a darker cerebral twist. I think this one is actually darker and it's more psychological. It's not so much action-packed as it is twisty, It's also a Netflix series and it's a limited one, so it has just 1 season with a proper ending, closure, everything. So I recommend it, but be prepared for some tears. Okay, then we have the third TV show that I would recommend, and this one is a Brazilian one actually, and it's called 3%. It's a Brazilian dystopian series, and the premise is pretty simple. Society is basically divided into the wealthy 3%, and they live in their own magical, like in a perfect land called the offshore. And then you have the other 97% that live in extreme poverty, they struggle to survive, lack basic necessities. You know the drill. And every year, citizens can compete in a deadly process to join the 3% in their perfect land, the offshore. And what I love about this show is how it balances intense competition with, some serious social commentary. It's not just about who's strong or smart. It's about who can adapt, strategize, and outlast the others. So if you're into high stress survival with a side of social critique, this one's for you. The characters are also amazing. The visuals are great. And it has 4 seasons, by the way. It's also on Netflix, if I haven't mentioned it already. And it also has closure. I always mention this because I hate it when, Netflix cancels its TV shows. We don't get any answers. And there's so many great TV shows that Netflix has canceled. and so many shit ones that it hasn't, okay? But there's actually one TV show that I recommend, even if it's canceled, just because I think that you should watch it regardless. It's so good. And that's in one of my other episodes. I mentioned it there. I'm not gonna mention it here. You'll have to go and listen to that. But anyway, now we have our final TV show that I would recommend, the fourth one, and it's also a Korean TV show called Death's Game. And this one is a bit different, but bear with me. So our main character, after a tragic death, is given 12 lives by death itself. Why? You might ask. Well, I'm not gonna tell you that, you're gonna have to watch, but basically he gets to live 12 different lives, and he's basically stuck in these bodies that are on the edge of death. Like one way or another, they're gonna die. They're gonna die in a matter of days, weeks, hours. He doesn't know. And it's interesting because obviously all of these people that he gets to live as are super different, super unique. He learns a lesson from each one of them. I will say that the main guy is kind of frustrating on times. He is a bit, I don't even know how to say it. I'm not going to say stupid. He's just a bit slow. Certain things that kind of we understand immediately, for example, that is trying to teach him a lesson. He kind of takes his time to actually get it. And we're like, we obviously know what the deal is, but it's interesting to watch his process and how he copes with it, because obviously he's in a very dark place. His mind is very depressed and twisted, and, he just doesn't see things the way we do. So bear with him. It's still a really good show. Like, a lot happens. You have a lot of action-packed scenes, and as well as many emotional scenes. So you get both. And, this show also made me cry. It made me feel a lot of stuff. So it's a good one. So it's basically less about organized games and more about survival as a personal journey. But it'll definitely appeal to fans of Squid Game looking for something a bit more introspective. And the main guy, he could easily be one of the competitors in Squid Game. He also has a lot of issues, you know the deal. And we also get to understand his backstory and, why he is the way he is, I suppose. And it's quite sad at times. It's just always sad to me, how certain people are just put into a corner and they don't see another solution. Like, they would rather, for example, compete in games like that, and die than go back to the life they had before. They literally can't see their way out. And I don't know, I just find that to be so sad, and also a really, a interesting concept to explore in TV shows like this and in books. And I think that we can all learn a lot from this, Like, these TV shows, they might be entertaining and they might be super fun to watch, but their message, the deeper meaning behind them, is also super important. And I think that we can all learn from them, right? Oh, and by the way, That's Game, this last series that I mentioned, you can find it on Amazon. And I think it's also a limited series. So everything, you get closure. It's a finished TV show. No unanswered questions, I think, are left. So yeah, there you have it then. 4 incredible TV shows that kind of captured the spirit of Squid Game while bringing their own interesting twists to the table. Whether it's the deadly games in Alice in Borderland, the psychological intensity of the 8th show, the dystopian survival of 3%, or the existential questions of Death's Game. There's something here for everyone. And hey, if you end up watching one of these, I'd love to hear about it. Like, please, I love talking about TV shows, obviously. You can hit me up wherever you're listening or on social media like Instagram and TikTok. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my podcast. It helps a lot. I mostly recommend books, fantasy books, but obviously also TV shows. I just love talking all things fantastical because these stories, they just make life even more exciting. Anyway, until next time, happy watching. Bye!